Alright, hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the first forging session in the new setup. So I've got a piece of 1095 bar stock, I've got a pair of tongs, my anvil stump, my forge. I'm going to get my forge lit here in just a minute, but this bar stock is 1.5. This bar stock is almost 2 by 12 by an eighth, or by an eighth. 2 by 12 by an eighth. So 2 wide, 12 long, 1/8 thick. That is a lot more steel than I need for this particular project. I'm building like an everyday carry sax knife. I was actually commissioned to build this knife for a friend of mine. This is the first knife I've ever built that I'll get paid to build, so that's pretty cool. So the blade on that knife is 4.5 inches long, and the handle is supposed to be about 3.5 inches long. So it's going to give me an 8-inch knife, but I know I'm going to reduce the thickness of this steel. So I'm probably going to give myself a 6-inch billet to start with, or a 6-inch bar to start with. That should give me enough to draw out and really shape what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that. Oh, maybe it's not by 12. That's 6. Yeah, this one's like by 11. Whatever. There will still be plenty of steel left on this piece of bar stock to make another knife out of, so don't worry about that. So I'm just going to mark this where I want to cut it. I'm going to take this down to my shop and I'm going to cut that with my angle grinder, and then we'll be ready to get some fire going in here, so stay tuned. I've never worked with 1095 before, so this should be a pretty interesting experience. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but there's a dark spot starting to form in the steel itself. That is not a good sign. That means one spot is heating up a lot faster than another, so I'm going to go shuffle that around in there. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do on here is start forcing it tip. Let's try this branded nearly hammer. This Brandon Deerling hammer, it's 2.5 pound rounding hammer. This is like the best thing I've ever swung. It's got a rounded side for spreading metal. It's got a flat side for shaping metal. This is what I started with, was this 3.5 or 4.5 pound French pattern crossbeam. This is too heavy for that bar stock. I don't have quite enough control over that hammer. And when you're swinging the hammer, it's more about just being precise with your strikes than it is anything too crazy. So you can see we're starting to get the tip form. The way I'm doing that is I'm holding this on an angle to the anvil, and I'm just really lightly trying to drive the tip down into itself so that we can get the tip profile correctly. And what you really risk of doing is thinning this metal up so much. So towards the end of the heat, I'm trying to give it a couple little swishes to move more metal down into that tip region so that all those hammer strikes are supported against something solid. So on this next heat, what I'll do is I'll hold it at the angle I want, and I'll actually hammer from the bottom side to start bringing these two corners together, and that's what's going to give us a tip. And that should be pretty much the whole shape of the knife right there. And then I can start isolating and moving some of this metal back for the tang. Alright, so now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to maintain that angle I want for the tip. It's going to toggle on you a little bit. It's alright. So I'm starting to get pretty thin towards the tip. So on this next heat, I'm going to take the rounding side of this hammer. There, see, you can see it's got kind of a round profile compared to a flat profile. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the back of the knife, and I'm going to draw steel forward toward the tip. And that should give me some more steel up towards the front end of the knife in the event that this starts to crack. Alright, so now that I got the rough shape of the tip forged in, we can start working on the tang. Okay? And to do that, I'm just going to go kind of right on the edge of the anvil. And I'm going to start trying to isolate and squash down
good solid tang, flat, even width, all that. That's almost more important than having a well-forged blade. And the reason is because when your tang is right, it makes getting your handle right 1,000 times easier. Doesn't matter how pretty and perfect and sharp the blade is, you can't hang on to it. Got about 10 minutes left. So I've probably got like two working sessions left, 2 heats, and then a third cycle, and that'll kind of help reset all of the grain of this steel. I'm actually going to use the big blade here. Got a little more weight behind it. Drop a little more weight. This is a super flat bar stock. Boy, does it like to twist it. That whole cycle right there, that took me less than a minute. So maybe I got a few more working cycles on this than I thought I did, which is nice. One thing that's going to be tough with this, because it's bar stock and it's thin, I didn't realize quite how thin this was and how, you know, it's easy to move, but it likes to twist when you're trying to hit right on it. One thing I'm going to have to be really careful on is grinding this, because there's not going to be, you know, between what I'm using the scale and everything else, it's not going to be real. It'll be robust for every day, but it's not going to be something you'd like be super stoked if you were in the backcountry and this is the only thing you had on you. get hot. I'm gonna just flatten her all out nice and even. Just make sure everything's nice and flat. And then I'm gonna put her back in the forge. And that last heat, I'm just gonna hold it, swing it, and let it cool all the way down to black. And then I'll probably set it up here on the stump or something. And that's gonna thermocycle it. It won't be quite the same as annealing it, but it will allow for some grain structure reset, which is good. Flatten this out, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to lay this on the anvil. So, note to self, you will get a little bit of backlash propane on this forge. That's all right. So, in an hour and a half, we got this thing pretty well forged. This is going to come in, right? And I'm going to have a slight cant to the handle. And then I'll probably just grind in this tip here. Probably have to get past whatever that old D-land thing is. That's all right. Yeah, she's still hot. All right, so just some closing thoughts for day one of this everyday carry seax forge. I like working with bar stock. It's easy to move. It's all the way annealed. This is 1095. It's a great knife steel. If I do this again with bar stock, I am 100% going to get like 3/4 width or thickness, because the 1/8, it doesn't want to take a point. When you start hammering to get a point, maybe I can use one of these shims. When you start trying to hammer in a point, it starts to flex real bad and twist, and then you're constantly hammering it back flat, but that whole time you're thinning this down, because once it twists, right, and you go to hammer it flat, you're actually stretching that part, and it's mostly coming off as scale is what I think is happening. So if I use bar stock again, I'll invest in something a bit thicker. But it is really nice to work with. If you wanted to make a knife and not do all the hammering and just make a knife and do some stock removal, this bar stock would be perfect for it. So don't get discouraged. Don't not start doing this because I said bar stock is a little bit weird to use. This is also the first knife I've ever made out of bar stock. So if this one comes out like trash, I got 10 more pieces. This forge is awesome. Buy a Diamondback forge. Don't buy one of those cheap Vevors. This thing was easy to put together. It heats up fast. It's I think I showed you guys this in the video where I put it together. I'll make sure to post that as well. But they do free customization, which I just think is so cool. So that is where we're going to end day 1 of the Everyday Carry Sax build. Thank you so much for watching. It is very much appreciated. Please remember to like, tell somebody about this channel, subscribe, that'd be awesome. And yeah, we'll see you back in the forge.